Hey there, Phil here again. And today, let's talk about what I think is probably the most popular, the most classic thing you can do as a blues rhythm guitar player. If you think there's something more classic, let me know in the comments. I want to see what everybody thinks as well. Now, what I'm talking about is something we call double stops. You've heard this before. Now, today we're going to break that down. If you already know that stuff, you may still want to check out this video because I'm going to explain a few little variations and things you can do to make it sound even better. And there will be a part 2 video later on where I show you a bunch of really cool variations. So stay tuned for that. If you like the video, like, subscribe, share with your friends. I'm just getting this channel started, but I've been teaching my whole life. So let's get into it. Today we're mainly going to be focusing on playing this pattern using open strings because it's way easier than not using open strings. But later in the video, I'll show you how you can use this pattern away from the open strings. It just gets a little bit stretchier. So if you're a beginner, that might be a little challenging for you. I'll show you how to do it anyways. And please excuse any background noise. I'm in the beautiful city of Buenos Aires, Argentina, and there's a lot of traffic noise and other stuff going on. So that's what you're hearing if you hear something in the background. So today, our main example is going to be a blues in the key of A. I've got a great video about that, explaining how it works. Check this guy out. So in the key of A, our 3 blues patterns are based around an A, a D, and an E. It's an amazing thing on the guitar because then we can focus on these open strings when we play our patterns. Now the first thing I'm going to talk about is a really cool, we could call it a trick, that's going to make your double stops sound even better. Now, double stops just means 2 strings at a time. You hear this term used a lot as a guitar player. So you're going to learn to play through 2 strings, just like that. It's like a little flick of the wrist. But what I want you to do, I want you to move through those 2 strings and then rest your pick on the string below them. So if I'm playing on the 5th string and the 4th string, I'm going to end up resting my pick on the 3rd string. Over time, that's going to get faster and easier. And when you do that, you're going to hear both of those notes really cleanly. What people do when they start is they kind of randomly bounce around. And sometimes the volume of the notes goes up and down, and it doesn't sound very good or consistent. So let's start off an A pattern. Let's put your first finger on the 2nd fret of the 4th string. And then you're going to pick the 4th string, or the 5th string and the 4th string. Just like that. Just start with that. Get used to that sound. Now the cool thing about this pattern is, for now, all we're going to do is go back and forth between the 2nd fret and the 4th fret. So 2nd fret of the 4th string and 4th fret of the 4th string. Like this. Starting off just like this. Get really comfortable with that. Once you're good at that, if you move 1 string down towards the floor, you've got a D pattern on the 4th string and the 3rd string. Or if you go up to the 6th string and the 5th string, you've got an E pattern. Those are going to be our 3 main patterns for today. With those patterns, we can play an entire 12-bar blues in the key of A. Again, watch that video I linked to earlier to see how that all works. And then you'll know how you can mix and match and plug in different patterns to play through the blues. So really, all we need now is to add a couple strums to make the rhythm sound a little bluesier. And then I'll talk about some things you can do to make this sound a little bit more authentic and some cool variations in your picking you can do as well. So in the blues, we do this rhythm a lot. Just see if you can follow along with me. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. There we go. Get used to that counting. Go back and play along with the video, and then come back to me. Also, take a quick look at this little chart, and if you want to, scribble these letters down on a piece of paper. This is what order you're going to put these patterns to play a classic 12-bar blues in A. So let's play a 12-bar blues together all the way through. Then you can go back in the video, you can play along a few times until you get comfortable with this. Eventually, you can go and you can find some backing tracks that you can play along to on YouTube as well. After we play along, then I'll talk about some of these little things you can do to make this even better. All right, you ready? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. D, A. Here's the second line. D. Last line, E, and D, A, and E. I just played an A at the end because that makes it feel like you've returned home. So play along with that until that gets simple. And then you can try some of these little variations that we're going to talk about right now. So the variations that we're going to do today all have to do with how long we're letting the notes ring and how we're picking through them. When I make a part 2 video for this, then we'll talk about more notes and other cool variations you can do on this pattern because there's a bunch of them. We're just starting simple. So step 1, maybe you've been doing this so far, is just to let everything ring out completely, like this. And 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. That's a great place to start, but it doesn't sound that great. There's some things we're going to do to make this even better. Step 2 is the opposite. Now, do you know what palm muting is? It's a special technique where we take your hand and you place it right over top of where the strings meet the body of the guitar. You can find lots more videos on this topic out there, but that's a quick explanation. You want to find the spot where it's ringing a little bit, but it's muted a little bit as well. If I play the whole thing palm muted, it sounds like this. That's a great place to start. Sometimes that sounds really good as well. It sounds good on the acoustic. It also sounds good on the electric. And you can vary how much you mute the notes or how hard you pick to explore and see what sounds best for you. Something that you'll see me doing a lot is kind of a combination. I'm letting it ring a tiny bit. Sometimes I'm doing a bit of a palm mute. And then sometimes you've seen me already in this video cutting off the notes a little. You can use this hand a bit. You can use this hand a bit too. Something like this. So, again, you can use this hand or this hand, but I'll often cut off the first note of each beat, which is the longer note, like this. 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. You can do that with palm muting or without palm muting. It gives it a really nice, really cool, precise kind of sound. It's not as easy as it looks, so explore that. If you combine all those different techniques, you'll find a combination that you think sounds best. Okay, well, if you've made it this far, thanks so much. And let me give you a quick overview of what happens if we move away from the open strings. And that's a topic for other videos as well. But all of a sudden, instead of having that open string there, we've got to get a little bit stretchier. So if you're familiar with a power chord, this starts with a power chord shape, for example. So put your first finger on the 3rd fret of the 5th string. And we'll use your 3rd finger for today. Put that on the 5th fret of the 4th string. There's our starting point. Now the crazy thing is we've got to reach over and hit the 7th fret of the 4th string. There's our variation. To do this, you're going to have to bring your thumb down low, right? Reach your first finger out to get a stretch there, and reach your pinky out to get a stretch there. For some people, it works better to use your middle finger on that middle note instead of your 3rd finger. Again, this is difficult. If this is uncomfortable, don't do it. You'll get there later as your fingers get more flexible. But it's going to sound like this. The good thing about this is that you can move it around. You're going to hear that in so many different songs, so many songs. So start with the open strings, but then if you're feeling brave, try that out as well. So that's all I wanted to go over in today's video. Master those patterns, memorize the order of those notes in your 12-bar blues. Stay tuned for part 2, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me.